should we try another one, and this time maybe tell me what I should be doing differently?
Okay.
Okay, how I can land this in a way that you're not going to feel irritated with me.
So should we first play out the negative approach?
Yes. Oh, yes, because
Okay.
that's so much fun.
It is. That's why people do it.
Okay. Um, so you're gonna not like this, but I just bought another jacket.
Another jacket? You have like 7 of them. I mean, why do you need another jacket? That sounds
Well,
ridiculous to me.
Well, I'm going to a party with my girlfriends, and they're all going to be wearing all these cool jackets, and I feel like my rain jacket is kind of out of date jacket. I don't feel like I don't really feel like I'm fashionable.
We're not fashion designers in this house. We have bills to pay, and you want to take a vacation, and we can't afford you just going out and buying everything that you want to buy whenever you want to buy it.
Well, I mean, what am I supposed to do? I mean, you're okay. I stay home and take care of the kids, but I don't have like a budget. So what am I supposed to do? Like, I want to spend money. I want to take care of. I want to do fun things. Like my girlfriends are running around. They're doing fun things. They're able to do vacations, and they're able to go out to dinner, and but I have to like ration everything. Like this jacket is like the world crisis. It's just $150 jacket. What is the big deal?
Okay, we could do that one forever, of course.
Yeah. Did I do a good job? I actually
Oh
don't
yeah,
have
you sound very real.
Okay, good. Phew, where's my Academy Award? All right, so what could I have done differently? So basically what I'm having issues which is one of the big issues, financial problems and how my spouse handles money. You have the issue of, gosh, you don't like how I'm like, spending willy-nilly, and I don't like that I'm on a constrained budget, which probably happens with people who are stay-at-home moms and dads that are working, if that's the particular case.
Yeah. Well, in general, what you don't want to do is get into an argument as to who's right and who's wrong.
Right.
And that's what people always do. What we'll do in this next scenario is I will guide you into a negotiation.
Okay. You're going to do that while I'm saying the same things?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. Oh, this is going to be fun.
And when you negotiate a solution to something, then you don't have to keep on dealing with it.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's the fact that this problem is like festering like an open wound, never healing at all, and just being ripped open each time whoever does whatever with the finances. Right. Okay. Okay. Okay, here I go again. So you're not gonna like this, but I just bought another rain jacket at Nordstrom's.
Another one? I thought you had several.
I do. I do.
Uh-huh. And how much was it?
It was $150, but I got it on sale. It used to be $300, but I got it at their Nordstrom sale, so I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, I saved us $150.
Uh-huh. Well, I'm wondering if I think we should talk about how to deal with purchases like that so that we are in agreement as to what works for both of us in terms of spending money, because we're kind of on a tight budget now. What do you think would be a fair way of dealing with, bigger purchases?
Well, that you do what other husbands do and just let me do them.
Uh-huh. So would you be upset if I went out and, say, bought a car without telling you?
Well, of course, but that's different. A car versus a jacket is completely different.
Because why?
Because one is like, $30,000 and the other is $150,000. This is just like a fun little extravagant buy.
Okay.
Every now and then I want to indulge myself. I work so hard at home. Doesn't that count for anything?
Yeah, and I want to make sure that you feel supported, but I want to make sure that we also are connected in terms of how we're working together financially. So,
okay. Well, now you're making me feel guilty. I feel guilty now. Like you're saying I'm running around just doing all sorts of now I'm not being financially or fiscally responsible. I didn't go buy like a $50,000 jacket. I bought a $150 jacket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I want to make sure that you don't feel guilty. And in fact, make it so that you can buy what you buy without necessarily having to check everything with me, but we don't have any agreement about how to do this. Obviously, if I bought an expensive car, you should feel pretty upset about that if I didn't tell you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
And we don't really have a way of dealing with this. So I'm wondering, um, how much should both of us be able to spend without having to pass it by the other person?
All right, that's fair. Like, there's things that, like, when I go buy groceries, like,
Yeah,
that's what I'm doing for the family. And I assume, like, you're not going to be staring over my shoulders for groceries because that's
right,
just ridiculous, right?
right.
And then there are things that I do for the kids, and I'm assuming that we're okay with that. But maybe what we should do is have like a limit. Like when I was at work, there was kind of a limit where you say, well, if it's under $100 or less, you don't have to get the receipt and you can expense it without receipts.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we have something like that, like a budget where it says, well, if it's between this amount and this amount, we need to refer, like, for if it's above $10,000 or maybe even 1,000, I don't know, we refer to the other person and say, hey, this is a decision that both of us should be making because it's
Right.
going to have a huge impact. But I don't know what that dollar amount is, but maybe do something like that.
That sounds really like a good idea. And what we could do is experiment for a month and choose a random number almost. And I'm thinking that if we're buying something just for ourselves,
Right,
that's not a necessity.
right.
That if it's over $100, we'll say, hey, I'm thinking of buying this coat. It's 150 bucks. I really want it. What do you think?
So I have to call you at Nordstrom's and get your permission?
Well, it depends. And obviously, if I was buying a car, I would want your permission. So
Right.
really, it's just a matter of what amount that we would ask each other.
Well,
So if I spend,
I'd
if,
ask you 500 because, like, I don't want to. I mean, it's embarrassing for me to call you at Nordstrom's and get an approval for $150. I mean, I am saving $150.
okay, well, that's a possibility of making it 500. The question is, if I went out and spent $400 on a new uh, golf club set,
No, see, I'd be
obviously
fine with it. I'd be fine with
you
it.
would be okay with it. Okay. Now, if you want to make it that amount, I'm willing to try that.
Okay.
The question is, then we would probably have to, if we're doing that much and not ever saying no to those things, that we may have to shorten our vacations just due to a lack of money, which I'm willing to do, but I just want you to know that um, we don't have that much extra money now. And so we have to decide what is a bigger priority. And that's a question really for us to decide together.
Okay, good. That was perfect. Okay, so and tell me what you were doing, and because that was perfect, right? Because I was pretty close to sealing the deal. We were about to sign the agreement and get it
Right,
notarized.
right, right.
What did you do?
Well, I took it from something where I was your enslaver
Right,
to there's an us.
right,
And a question I asked is, first of all, I'm asking you to solve the problem. Like, what do you think is fair?
right,
And then I said, well, if we do that, the $500, then we may have to shorten our vacations. What do you think you want to do about that?
right.
So I'm not giving you demands. I'm saying that there's a we that we have to decide together what would potentially work here.
Mm-hmm.
And we're working on a negotiation rather than you saying I'm a cheapskate and me saying that you spend too much money.
Right, right, right. Okay, got it. So, and I think that it's funny because when I've been in negotiations, when we actually did this in mediation, I mean, oftentimes it's okay, what are the next steps? And knowing that the next steps may not be the final steps, but they're at least getting in this direction of creating those rules, which is what you're saying, because we don't have these rules, we don't have clear expectations, and then all hell breaks loose, right? Because I
Yeah.
buy a $500 jack, or do you buy a $400 set of golf clubs, and it's like, and without any understanding of the we consequences, which I think were really good. Okay,
I had a
good.
couple that was in their 70s and they came to me and they said they'd been arguing at least 3 hours a week about money for the last 40 years.
3 hours every week.
For for the last 40 years.
Wow.
And I was able to solve all that in one session.
And they didn't come back?
Well, no, they came back just to say, we didn't argue again. Everything's great. Thank you.
Wow.
And what I did was I said that, well, why don't we come up with an amount that they can spend without having to ask the other person.
Yeah.
And I came up with an amount. In this case, it was $100. And they both hated the idea.
Yeah.
The woman thought it had to be at least $500, and the man thought it had to be $25.
That's a pretty big discrepancy.
Yeah, yeah. So they both were united in hating me for the idea. But I said, why don't we just try it for 1 week?
Right.
And then we can change the amount. And they said, okay, we'll try it for 1 week. Well, during that week, they didn't argue about money. And then they said, this works so well that we're just going to continue it. And, you know, so sometimes.
Yeah, because they would prefer not going on that day of vacation to having the peace during, 3 hours of peace during that week.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the equation in some ways that you have to think. It's like, what do you want money? I would pay money not to complain and have and argue about it, right?
Uh-huh. One of my favorite techniques from the Communication Miracles for Couples book is just asking your partner, what are a couple ideas you have for how we might be able to handle this better?
Right. It's a brilliant idea because oftentimes we just want to complain and judge the other person as being a cheapskate or lazy, or whatever it may be, versus really stating what we want. It's very typical too when you're in a corporation. Someone goes in and complains to their boss, well, I hate working with someone, a big rag session. And it's like, well, what are you going to do? Like, why are you coming in? Like, is this just a dumping ground? Or what are the 3 things you're going to do? Be accountable, be responsible, make it happen. Don't just sit here and complain in front of me. What's the purpose?
But in America, we learn English, and we also learn a certain type of English called blame English.
Yeah. Blame
English is the language that we learn. We don't learn these other ways of dealing with problems. And it's almost like learning a foreign language. It takes a little bit of practice. You have to learn the exact phrases, and then you can handle things much more effectively.
Yeah, well, it's our litigation system, but we can go on hours on that. All right. It means so much to me that you're listening to the show. I would love your support in any way by giving me comments below, or to subscribe to the show, or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.